button.
All right.
Checking the stream. All right, we should be live. Let me
Voice is going out.
unmute this to see what happens. Oh, checking the stream. All right, we should be live. Let me
Voice is going out.
unmute this to see what
We're good.
happens.
We're good. All right. I'm hitting the record button on my.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Green.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it? Whether we're young or old.
Here comes the candles will light you to bed. Here comes the chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Got a big show for you tonight. Lots of good stuff. Stay here and stay informed. Got a lot of news, or none. I don't know what we have. Bernie Sanders won the New Hampshire primary
Okay.
by 0.1%.
What was the thing? Every time they kept sending data, they always had what Klobuchar like at 26%, and then suddenly it was like not that.
Yeah, there was. I wasn't able to watch it because I had to sleep, but I watched like a condensed. I just sort of fast forwarded through it. And yeah, there seemed to be like a lot of, because they're just doing a primaries, so there seemed to be a lot of early precinct reporting for Klobuchar, and in a certain packet of the state got done early, or at least reported earlier, and then all of a sudden it kind of became a two-way thing between Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders won. It wasn't like huge, it's him and Buttigieg. But one thing I liked was, like, you can tell where the dark money is starting to pool, like, because all throughout the broadcast, that when I would stop fast forwarding, they were talking about how electable Mayor Pete is and what a great guy he is, and then at the end, it's like, well, we're legally obliged to inform you that Bernie Sanders did technically win the primary, but the culinary workers are going to fuck him in Nevada. So go Governor, or go Mayor Pete. It's like, oh, okay, so I see who the money's starting to coalesce around. This is who Bloomberg has decided is the heir apparent to whatever.
Yeah, like Bloomberg didn't qualify for this, but he qualifies for other ones.
Yeah, well,
So that's going to get weird.
He's not really in this to win the nomination. I don't think he just wants to be the kingmaker, because he wants another Clinton era.
Oh,
Democrats, where it's just, we're just gonna fuck everyone's eyeballs out but make them feel good about it. We're gonna make sure the rich people really have anything.
Yeah.
But Bloomberg doesn't want you to have guns, because rich people are not yet bulletproof. So that's a big issue of security with him.
guns for the rich.
Yeah. So yeah, we can already tell, and yeah, and I did some back checking on some stuff we said about on the last podcast, and yeah, there's all kinds of money going into the Buttigieg campaign. They're even either having giant fundraisers, or all the billionaires are starting to line up behind him. It's like, oh, okay, we know it's because I really
It's a lot of tech and healthcare stuff.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so nothing's gonna change because now this guy was supposed to be someone's vice president, and then Biden started losing his mind. So it's like, well, he's not viable anymore. So, okay, now it's Mayor Pete, and of course now it's like he really thinks he can win. So it's like, quickly, I will compromise myself to anyone. I can actually win.
Is Warren just losing complete track, or is she just like?
I don't. I mean, I can tell you.
Do you even want to talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Because I mean.
Because I'm vaguely paying attention. I'm just like, just tell me Bernie did okay.
No, I'm in on this on the pod. I mean, I'm always in on this at the level I usually am, where I'm interested. Then the primary's over, I'm disenfranchised and I don't care. but right now I'm interested.
Yeah, I can't watch debates live. I just want to like, and I don't necessarily know who should I go to for like, hey, well, here's what happened, because like debates are so embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't sit down and I will have them run in the background.
Yeah.
I don't really go to anyone for a condensation of those because it's all the gotcha moments that the mass media wants you to solely consume. Because some of those debates, there are long answers, but a lot of it's gotcha stuff.
Yeah.
Especially now. Like 2 years ago when they started having them, they were doing kind of, people would give 2-minute answers to complex questions, which is still not enough time, but it's like way more than the 10 seconds they get now as the primaries are starting to narrow. So, yeah, there's a few things. I mean, these are just theories I have based on stuff other people have talked about and kind of stuff I've put together. About 6 weeks ago, I could be getting this time wrong, but the DNC, the Democratic National Party, had some kind of unity rally where all the candidates in the primary come together. They take their picture. They make them, they seem like, we're different candidates, but we're still one party. They do that kind of propaganda shit.
Yeah.
Well, this year the DNC charged every candidate $300,000 out of their campaign if they wanted to be a part of it. And so all the major candidates showed up, and of course Bloomberg and Steyer and all the people that have unlimited amounts of money, they showed up essentially because the DNC at this point is bankrupt. So they're having to charge candidates that run under their banner a lot of money because the middle of the road people aren't giving money to the DNC because they think it's run by leftists now, and the leftists aren't giving any money to the DNC because you must have a crazier agenda this year than last year. So the DNC is really fucked for money. So now they're charging their candidates a crazy amount of money. And you got dudes like Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg suddenly moving it because they're just trying to take over the DNC. Again, this is my theory. I don't. So you got those guys showing up. And so then they get up and have a unity rally about 6 weeks ago. And everyone's fine. And, like they'll have a group photo and like Elizabeth Warren's on Bernie Sanders' shoulder and everything looks great. And then not even a week later, Elizabeth Warren starts launching attacks about how Bernie Sanders told her that women are not electable or, something. It's like, oh, okay. So this is what this was a meet and greet. This unity rally was for all the other candidates to figure out how they're going to fuck Bernie Sanders. He's the one they seem to actually fear him this time. And I'm sure the billionaires do.
Oh, yeah.
They are very afraid that Bernie Sanders might, because seemingly billionaires are no smarter than the electorate because they think somehow Bernie Sanders is going to get elected and we're just going to have 50 hammers and sickles on our flag and he's going to change the whole country, forgetting the fact that there is an executive and a judicial branch that may or may not be dominated by Republicans come this election. So it's like, yeah, but let's do the best we can to fuck Bernie. Let's get our middle of the road guy that's going to bring back Clinton economics, which unfortunately it looks like that's the mold they're going to force Pete Buttigieg into, because he seemed kind of different at first, but now it's when you read about where all his funding's, all of a sudden his campaign has 10 times the money it did 3 weeks ago. It's like, okay, because you can actually look that up. That's not Wars. You can go look that up on Open Secrets, all those websites, and it's like, okay, so we know what's going on here. So as of right now, like, because I am undecided on who I'm going to vote for in the primaries. But if this stuff keeps happening, it's probably going to be Bernie Sanders just to say fuck you to everyone else because I don't like what you're doing, and it's obvious what you're doing. It's not like subtle. There's not trickery here. It's like, oh, we're just going to attack. Because with Elizabeth Warren, the opposition research is pretty much out about her and how they're going to attack her. Is first of all the silly Trump Pocahontas thing, because you know how they mock the Warren supporters now as they all wear Dreamcatcher necklaces. Have you seen that? Yeah, it's an effective counter campaign. And then the fact that she was a Republican until 1996, and that she was very much like believed in banks and laissez-faire capitalism, and then she just suddenly turned all of a sudden. No one really believes in those, because that would mean she would That would be like 2 years older than I am now. Is when she decided to switch political affiliations. It's like, oh, you're doing that in almost your 50s. Okay, that's an interesting sea change. And there's a lot of little things with her bills she sponsored stuff. I mean, the Bernie Sanders opposition stuff, which all hasn't come out yet, is I mean, some of it's interesting. Like him and his wife went to their honeymoon in Moscow, and this is when the Soviet Union was the thing. It's like, huh, that's interesting. There's a lot of weird stuff about him.
Well, that wouldn't be effective because we already know Trump's closer to Russia than Bernie is.
Maybe I don't know. Trump's closer to Russia. Bernie was closer to the Soviets, our sworn enemy. Remember, the Russians are our friends now, according to the current administration.
Trump's being controlled by the Russians. Bernie's being influenced by Marxism.
Yeah. Which Karl Marx was that? Where was he from? England? Was he England? Was he from the UK?
Was he?
I don't know. I didn't look that up. That sounds dumb for me not to know that, considering
I just assumed it was like Ukraine or Georgia or some shit.
Well, let me look it up. Maybe he was educated in the UK.
Yeah.
Oh, he's from Germany. Okay, of course.
Oh, okay, yeah. It makes sense, yeah. Or it doesn't, but whatever.
It does. So he's Prussian. He was Prussian. No, he went to Bonn and University of Berlin. He was a philosophy major. Okay, so, but he was a stateless person for a while, so that's when he lived in the UK. That's why I thought he was from the UK. So yeah, that's just my take on what's going on right now. Because now that they're getting unions to come out against Bernie Sanders, they got the culinary union to come out against him. Who else are they trying to get? You can just tell like the party mechanisms are starting to work.
Nurses against Bernie.
Yeah, it's not nurses, but it's the people like me that have unions with the primo healthcare. The fear they're playing on is like, well, Bernie will fuck us out of our good healthcare. It's like, well, if you're smart, no, he won't. You'll get whatever the Medicare for all. Let's say that actually happens. Okay, let's just say that happens. You would get the Medicare for all, and then your union would bargain for increased care to make up the difference in what you had, because that's what unions do. They don't just throw up their hands like, "Oh, okay, you're fucked," because if you're not paying,
you'd be arguing over dental insurance.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would be. So
because like, well, I didn't know that. Like, I know like Canada has universal health care, but not dental care. Which is that how it is like everywhere else?
Yeah, oh yeah. America is the world. We are the world leaders in dentistry. I've heard this from several of the dentists I have here, including because I had a British guy who was an intern here to be a dentist, and he just moved here because he said he could actually make money practicing dentistry here, because he said like in the UK, they people do it more now, but it used to be you just got all your teeth pulled at 40. Because there was that was the beginning and end of your dental care, was when you showed up to have all your teeth pulled and dentures, because if the government doesn't pay for it there, people don't want it. And he said like all the shit you do here where everyone has perfectly porcelain teeth and stuff, that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world but in the US. And he goes, and mainly on the west coast of the US. So yeah, that's what you'd be fighting over: dental, eye, and just whatever gaps you'd have in a Medicare for all system, if that ever became a reality.
Yeah. What was the other one payer thing?
Yeah, those systems are limiting, and they have their own problem. They're not perfect, but they're a lot better than Pete Buttigieg saying you can have choice. It's like, oh, I can have the choice to be exploited by an insurance. Ooh, thank you, Pete.
I'll just go back to avoiding all the things that are wrong with my body.
Yeah, pretty much. I have great health insurance, and I don't even go because I don't want to hear about. Well, your problem is you're fat. Well, fuck, dude. I didn't have to go to university for 12 years to learn that. Well, let's see. What can you do to help me with that? Do you have like medicines that will curb my? Oh no, we can't do any of that. Okay, well then we're just gonna we're gonna shake hands here and just walk away because we have nothing to say to each other. But yeah, so that's it for my political stuff. We'll find out more primaries, more podcasts. I might throw a quip in. I know it's not really your thing, and it's not really that interesting.
Well, no, it's fine. It's like I just like sometimes when I feel like all we're doing are repeating talking points, I'm like, let's stop talking. But if we have like an angle that, or like he's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I try to have an angle because anything I can watch on TV, I now by default I don't believe. I don't care whether it's MSNBC or Fox News. I don't believe any of it.
yeah.
So I try to listen to guys and read stuff and then form my own opinion. And by listen to guys, I mean like people that actually study politics, not comedians. Because comedians are fun, but it's like that's just one-liners. That's not like insight. I try to read things.
Yeah,
off.
getting people to laugh and clap at something doesn't make it true, but people act like it is.
Well, people they because it has that emotional like snap. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, that reinforces what I believe. But it's like the long article I read in the Atlantic about how this guy, his point was having Michael Bloomberg as president would actually be worse for the people that are getting it on the neck now under Trump than it would be having Trump as president. And this guy goes down and shows you like this is what Michael Bloomberg did as the mayor of New York. This is kind of how he influenced Albany and the state government in New York. This is what he would do to America. And it was like nobody knows if it's true or not. It's speculation. But it's like, yeah, these people running the party, the Democratic Party, if you're poor or make under $100,000 a year, oh, you're just as fucked with Bloomberg as you are with Trump in these certain issues. Now, however, the imminent World War III and the fact that we don't have a functioning government anymore, you might have that under Bloomberg. But if you're poor and you need benefits or whatever, it's like, this isn't your guy. Because, like I said, there's a few psychopaths around here that are like, yeah, you know, that Mayor Bloomberg, he has some good ideas. Like, no, he doesn't. He has good ideas. Like I said, if you're on an income level, kind of like, you know, a Gulfstream 4 is a letdown for you. The Gulfstream 5.
I had to buy a used plane. Oh my god.
My plane doesn't have leather seats in it. Like, Bloomberg's your guy. If these are the kitchen table discussions we're having, that's your guy.
Oh, I vaguely remember the thing I was going to talk. It wasn't the healthcare. It was like, remember that Canada was, or somewhere in Canada, they were trying out universal basic income.
Okay.
Where they're just giving everybody like or not everybody, but some people that qualify like $1,000 a month.
I think this was in Vancouver.
And so like, you know, it's like, oh, this is a cool thing, but like apparently like what they did is like, we're gonna give you $1,000, and for everyone that we give $1,000, we're cutting $2,000 out of like all the
school infrastructure.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. This is called basic income punishment. Sacrifice BMI, UBI, or whatever. Yeah, so that made everyone happy. I'm sure everyone was over the moon about that.
I didn't get I didn't read an article about how that was concluded because I'm pretty sure there'd be stuff about that. Maybe they'd finish it. Maybe they have results. I don't know. I didn't. But
yeah, they just raise taxes on everyone. It's like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't like that? Well, here's and then pretty soon you're just totally dependent on the government for everything. And it's like, my vote really matters now because whether I have heat or not next month will be determined by it. So that's a fun system. Not that I'm against universal basic income as a concept, but when they start talking about like you could get $1,000 a month. Okay, I don't live in Manhattan or on the East Coast. $1,000 a month would not pay your rent where I live, and I don't live in a place that's like radically expensive to live in. It's like, so I don't know where. But then again, it's like today, we took my son to his orientation day for college he's going to. And we got our worksheet because we had to give them all our tax information and stuff and see if there's any like grants or anything. And of course, and it's like to qualify for this, you have to make under $20,000 a year. It's like, who around here is making under $20,000 a year that's not living under a bridge? Because I know what shit costs. I know exactly what it costs to live here, and it's like, so who's getting this money?
There are. So depending on like your social ethnic background and stuff like that, There are grants available to you, but there are people who, like, they go to college to get the loans to basically support their family.
Oh, weird. Okay. Because I've looked into this a lot, I see what you're saying now. I'd never thought of that, but
It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, well, you got accepted to college, and it's like, well, I can't pay for it. It's like, we got loans. It's like, okay, and then like they see how much, and then like if you qualify, you're like, you know, you're a, in your family, but like you're like at an age where you're considered an adult. You work part time. You make less than $20,000 an hour, and now you're getting $80,000 a year in student loans, and you can support your family, and then you just never pay those loans back.
oh, okay, that's nice. There's the twist.
Oh yeah, I can't remember whether, but yeah, it was like, I don't know how prevalent this is, but yeah, it seemed like horrifying. Like, oh, I went to college to keep my family's house afloat,
Yeah.
and and they don't graduate college.
No, they don't get anything out of it. They don't get an education out of it. Just like, yeah.
And it's not like they're being malicious about it. It's like they
That's
just
their
like,
choice.
yeah, it's like they were trying to figure out what to do with their life. It's like, well, this could solve some problems.
I mean, I know that everyone's not as lucky as me. I get that, but sometimes when I see these like pay schedules and these loan schedules and stuff, I'm like, because we're just looking through all this stuff, trying to figure out like how the fuck are we gonna get this off the ground? And it's like we can do it. It's not gonna be easy, but then you see like, well, there's loans for this, there's loans for that, and it's like we don't even qualify for all the loans to cover this, even as a loan. It's like the government will only give you so much. I have to go to private loans, which are like those are commercial loans, which have high interest rates, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'd probably be better off taking money out of my money market thing and just paying myself back at 2% interest. But then you see this stuff like, yeah, fill out all this paperwork and see what you qualify for nothing. And it's like, yeah, we're not rich. Why doesn't he qualify for anything? Really, anything? It's like we're not flying out to Aruba tomorrow or something. What are we doing? I like it how, because he lives a mile from this campus of the school he's going to, it does save us $10,000 a year in housing, in student housing.
Oh yeah, and in-state college tuition is like cheaper too. So
Oh yeah, well, we got our $5,000 a year discount because we actually got money off because he lives in the county, not just the state. We also get an in-county discount. I did like some of the naivete they had, the parents Q&A about like, ask the students and the faculty anything you want to know about your kid going to college. And there were people here from all over the country, mainly the Midwest and the South, but people are asking questions like, so is this a dry campus? It's like, you're talking about college in Southeast Michigan. They literally, I mean,
I don't know. I could see it like it's not a Big Ten school, so maybe there's.
Yeah, maybe, but no. It's like,
No.
you know where you are? There's a liquor store on every corner. In nice neighborhoods here. Everyone hates each other here. All we do is drink. How we get through the winter. But yeah, I was like, we were just sitting up there, like these people were asking these questions. We were just grinning at each other, like, "Oh God, really, dude? Where are you from? where is there such a thing as a dry campus? Is this like, is it between this and Brigham Young University?"
Well, what answer were they expecting or hoping for? Like,
Well,
yes,
yeah, no one can. And of course, they're like, no, how it works in student housing is if the youngest person in the room is not 21, you can't have liquor in that room. But it doesn't mean you can't go to the room next to them where everyone's 21 and they can have liquor. And they're like, on campus in the student dorms. And they're like, yeah, that's, if you're over 21, you can do that here. But they said that finally, they're like, okay, we don't actually sell it on the campus though. So that was like the compromise, because this guy was worried like they were just handing out beer as he went to class. Like, no. Doesn't work that way. But yeah,
that's at the frat houses, which I'm assuming they have frats and stuff there.
They do. It's not big. It's like 10% of the students are involved in it. It's mainly like the fraternities they have there, like they're what they call academic fraternities. where it's like a bunch of guys get together, like all the pre-med students.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You study. Oh, it's a study frat. That's how they explained it.
Study, that's a weird name for jerking each other off.
Yeah. That's a strange way for laying down in a coffin and have everyone fart on you. Like, well, we're all about academics and farting in coffins. And, you know, finding out what you're afraid of and, like, ordering spiders by the pound. See if we can get this guy to have a heart attack during rush. But, yeah, that's...
And practicing resuscitating people from the dead from alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. They don't have as... I will say, like, in Michigan, unless you get, like, a lot of people who come from places where there are, like, dry counties and stuff, you don't hear a lot of the horror stories you used to about people, like, getting close to the fringes of alcohol poisoning. You usually do when that first freshman group comes in, and they're like, oh, my parents aren't around. Quickly guzzle vodka. But by the time the people tear up and get used to it,
yeah, I don't know, like, because it seems
like around here you got more like day drinkers than you do binge alcoholics. Like, I'm gonna get all my drinking in between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. No, people are just hammered throughout the day, and that's when they're not smoking weed.
But also, like, I just don't know, like, too much about this latest generation. Like, they don't see, like, there's always going to be people that drink, but it doesn't seem like the majority of them are necessarily interested in just drinking for the hell of it. Like, they seem to be more into video games than drinking.
No, people Grayson's age I've met are people Grayson's a lot of the friends and people he knows at Milan are actually going to this college with him, like not with him together, but he's already seen a bunch of people that he knows. So, and a lot of those kids are not the party kids, because it's just not as fun as it used to be. And a lot of people around here, their parents are alcoholics, and they've seen that, and they're like, well, maybe that's not for me. Maybe they don't, want to deal with that all the time. Because, when you come home and you're 15 years old and mom's passed out with her tits out, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes an impression. Maybe I don't want to do that.
Sometimes drinking is for the out-of-state kids who are trying to socialize.
Yeah.
And then they don't know how to drink, and then it's like, oh, you're not supposed to drink an entire bottle of vodka.
Like I said, the kids like Grayson from Michigan, I'm pretty confident when he's not commuting, he'll just be like a day drinker. He'll just be continuously mildly buzzed all the time, versus the people that come from like Rush County, Kentucky, where they've never seen booze. They're like Native Americans getting their first drink of firewater, where they're just going to lose their minds. And so, yeah, that was interesting. We were like just giggling, like, oh yeah, there's no such thing as a dry campus in Southeast Michigan. That doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
No, in college I didn't necessarily notice, like, oh, there's the drunkards. Like, they're either like somebody just looks sickly, and then they talk about like, oh, it was a bad night last night, but they weren't like actively drunk. This is like hangover, we got to go to school.
Yeah.
The most notable thing was the stoners. It's like, oh, you're high right now.
Oh, the stoners are crazy around here, and that's a thing you can explore. I don't encourage it, but it's like, do it before you get a job like me where you're locked into drug tests and you can't do it anymore. At my work, they don't care if you want to drink until the second before you clock in. They're cool with that. Don't you dare smoke marijuana at any point in the previous 3 months, or you're fucked. It's like, really? Okay, that's that's old school. As a matter of fact, you should go home and drink, and we'll make sure you do. So. But yeah, it was interesting. It'll be fun. I think he'll either really like this or really hate this. So I don't know which. He seems pretty optimistic about it, which is unusual for him. Because his main worry was the money, because he was going to join like the reserves and all that. And I was like, just don't just be a student. We'll figure it out. I figure it out some way. Just go be a student. We don't have to worry about paying for anything for 4 years. So.
Yeah, and there's opportunities at the school because, like, there's plenty of jobs shit you can do there.
Yeah, well, he's going to be a commuter, which we
Yeah.
were shocked because we asked like, how much does it cost a semester to park? Because we were thinking $500-$600, which is what it is at almost every other college around here. No, it's $177 a semester. Get a parking pass. Like, oh, okay, cool. That's like a bargain. So yeah, he's gonna commute. He may work on the campus. He may keep working at Carter. We don't know.
But there's like stuff like there, because like we had the buses there that went around the school, because I had to park at a parking lot that was away, and got picked up by a bus, and like all the buses are driven by the students, which means you can get what's a commercial license? Is that Class C to drive bus?
Either chauffeur or Class C. I'm not sure which.
Or is Class C truck?
Maybe it's Class C truck. Yeah.
Okay, so whatever for a bus, like you get that license thing, and it was like $18 an hour driving a bus.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good money.
And yeah, and so like there's stuff like that too, where you can get like certificates for things and make good money at the school doing shit.
Yeah.
Because like half the people that graduate just end up like working for the fucking school, because that's
Yeah.
the only people hiring them for their degree.
Yeah, we went to the history department today and we listened to the lecture from the professors. They had the philosophy department head, they had the African American histories and studies, the 4 professors from that, and then they had the European and ancient history professor there, who was a guy who looked like a professor from the 70s or 8. You know, he had like a tweed coat and patches on his jacket. I think he was 85 years old. Him and Grayson talked for about 15 minutes.
Huh.
But as we were leaving, because Grayson's big thing is like, I got to get a job after this, and I was like, yeah, you do, but just you're gonna find out what you do. Trust me, they're experts at this. They'll tell you what you can do. I said, if you want to pursue one of these type of fields, I just pointed out to like the history professor and all the other people. I was like, the 5 people that got jobs in this field are those 5 people right there. Understand that, but know that if you really want to pursue it, you can. And there's because now he doesn't know if he wants to do history or political science. It's like, well, just go talk to people and see what you can do. Because the next year or the year after, their School of Engineering, they're building a whole new addition to the school, and their School of Engineering opens up, which he's of course not going to be interested in, but there's going to be a lot more students there because they're doing that.
Yeah.
Because no one can afford. That's the thing about this school is it's like this is actually pretty damn affordable, and even at the end of 4 years, it's still like $60,000. But it's like that's not bad. You go to Ann Arbor, go to U of M, you're looking at $100K at the least. So, and that school's really hard to get into. That's, but then again, all your credits transfer. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if people don't know, for all our high school listeners out there, if you fucked up in high school and you didn't get to the college you want, go to community college. You start from zero. Trust me, you can make A's at community college and transfer to your school of your choice. Now, maybe you're not transferring to Harvard, but you are transferring to a major school.
Yeah, because we even talked about that with some of the people at the school were like, because the community college is like 2 miles down the road from where he's going, which is Eastern, and it's like, oh yeah, if you go to community college and get all your prerequisites in, it's like half as much.
Yeah,
you might want to do that first. So we kind of looked at that, but it's hard to get as good a schedule. Like, see, at Eastern you can make your schedule.
Yeah,
to get all your stuff in the morning. If you're doing 12 to 16 credit hours, you can get all that in the morning and then have the evenings free. Or you can, because he's commuting, he's not going to want to spend hours on campus unless he does. Because Grayson likes to go to the library and do his homework. So that's what he does at school.
yeah,
He has all, because now he's in his senior year and he's done basically all his mandatory classes. He's not interested in photography and stuff. He just does like a bunch of study hours, and he never has homework now because he just goes to the library and does all his homework. So. But we'll figure that out as we go. But like, if you go to the community college, you kind of got to work around their schedule, which is sort of weird. You
I
can go
although
5 days a week. For,
well, the way they did it at Kirkwood here, they have it set up like pretty much to like you have a job. That's why you're at community college.
yeah.
They had because I could basically fit all my classes on Tuesday and Thursday because I had like this schedule where it's like on Tuesday it's an hour, and then on Thursday it's 2 hours, and like the classes like flip flop and kind of they'll fit in together. They Tetris together well, so you can get a large assortment of classes together,
Yeah.
and then just have everything get like 12, 15 credit hours in 2 days.
Yeah. That's yeah, they kind of do that here. Because a lot of people were really jealous. It's like, how far do you live from here? A mile. Like, fuck you. It's funny if you get parking tickets, or you have to use their medical cert. Because they just started a thing this year where if you come from out of state, they'll accept your health insurance. Because they have like a little campus. They have like an urgent care, like a little campus hospital and all that. That's basically for people that get drunk or break their legs on the ice. But they just changed it this year to where they'll accept like out-of-state health care. Like they'll work with whatever your parents have if you're coming from Maryland or Virginia or some of those places. But it used to be like parking tickets and stuff billed to the student medical stuff. They just roll that into your tuition. They'd be like, you don't have to worry about paying for that now. But yeah, you get this weird addendum at the end of 4 years. It's like, yeah, you owe $580 in parking fee.
Like I think I had to go to the wellness center. I think that's what they called it.
Yeah, it's something like that.
I had to get an MMR vaccine because I just didn't have any records of me getting it. I'm pretty sure I got it because I got all the vaccines that they gave to me. But like it had been 10 years elapsed, and like I have no idea, so like I had to just get an MMR vaccine. And but like one of the doctors was looking at my chart, and because I was in the military, I have like whatever the thing is for like smallpox vaccine. It's like, why did you get this? I was like, I was in the military.
Bro. 1 out of 10 people can die from this. I wasn't one of those. I also have atropine with me. There's a nerve agent attack.
Did you ever see The Rock? It's not like that, but it's how you imagine it.
Yeah. You want it to be something like that.
Yeah, I've been listening to a new podcast recently.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
The Action Boys. Boys with a Z.
All right.
Do you ever listen to Comedy Bang Bang?
No, I always mean to. You talk about it a lot. I just never get. I'm too busy learning about how the DNC's.
There's a guy on there. He frequents. His name's John Gabris. He's a comedian. You probably don't know him from anything because he's done like thousands of things where he was like a bit player. I think like maybe the most notable thing is he played a non-speaking actor role of the guys in the writers' room on 30 Rock. He was one of those people.
Okay.
So whenever like they had a scene with the writers' room, he was just like a guy in the background that never talked.
The camera slid past him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forget. It's called like a non-speak. It's not an extra, but you're like a non-speaking actor. So like this pay scale is wildly different.
Yeah. $50. You want $50 for 10?
That SAG work, so
That SAG card. Let bad Brad Pitt pay for your medical.
So yeah, I really like the stuff he does. He has his own podcast called High and Mighty, where he just talks about random stuff. I really like that podcast. And this is kind of spun out from it. So this is a Patreon podcast. So it's $5 a month or $5 and you can listen to the entire catalog and cancel it. I haven't done that yet, but because like they've been doing it for 3 years, so I have about 150 episodes I need to get through.
Yeah, you can really get the high grade. That's why I don't subscribe to a lot of streaming movie services. It is because I'm cheap, but it's not because I have so many Patreon podcast things, but it's like weird shit. Like a lot of the political stuff I do. There's one where I pay $10 a month but I literally have 5,000 hours of back stuff that they've done. So that's why, yeah, that's my money. A lot of my money now is going to Patreon just to listen to guys talk instead of, streaming service.
It's commendable because you know where the money's going.
Well,
You're directly affecting their lives.
yeah, I like what these guys say. You may or may not agree with them all the time, but it's like I don't even listen to. Like I said, CNN and Infowars are the same thing to me, just for different reasons. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's John Gabris and a couple friends, Stanger and another guy. I forget his name. Fuck. I forget his name. It's not important. I just remember Stanger because Stanger's weird. And he also has this character, like, they say something where, like, activate Stanger protocol, and basically, because whenever they start, so, like, all these guys, they're, like, part of the, like, UCB, like, theater kind of group stuff, like,
Okay.
like they've all like taught classes, they've took classes, and these are all the failures. Or, well, they haven't made anything of themselves yet except for this podcast. So they're
These are the semi-bitter men.
yeah.
Okay.
But they're really good at riffing at stuff. So
Well, that's good.
or I guess John always described it. It's like, so if you ever want to hear three white guys talk about action movies, that's the podcast for you. There's no other podcast like it in the world. But yeah, so they're good at doing like bits. So a lot of times they'll like just get off track because so what they do is they review kind of like 80s and 70s action movies, and occasionally do modern ones. So when they activate Stanger protocol, it's just to like, all right, let's like actually start going through the movie rather than joking about random shit.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of the same problems we have, but they have a dump button for it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, and the guy just does a voice, and then they just go back to making jokes and don't talk. I mean, they stay on top, but like the great ones are when they do Steven Seagal movies because they can all do a Steven Seagal impression, and it's just really funny. And they just always go to weird places with Steven Seagal because it's just like baffling that Steven Seagal was ever an action star.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I've always thought that, actually.
It's like, how did this guy become a movie star?
This guy's fatter than me, and he's claiming to be a martial arts expert. How is that? It's like Kung Fu Potato at this point. Fuck, okay.
And they were talking about Under Siege, which I didn't realize that was like the basically everybody except Steven Seagal from that movie went on to make The Fugitive.
Yes. That was the production people, everyone. Yeah.
And Tommy Lee Jones is a bad guy in that movie. He was just kind of playing a hyper bad guy. He wasn't even like. And then the next movie, it's like, I'm an award-winning actor.
Yeah. What did they say? It was Tommy Lee Jones channeling the guy from like Rebel Without a Cause. It was like it was a weird bad guy. He's like, I'm just kind of angry. I don't know why.
But for Under Siege or a Fugitive?
Under Siege.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like what's that guy's name?
Who?
The guy who died in the car wreck from Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh,
He was in Giant and all his other.
yeah. Like,
I'm drawing a blank. He's from Indiana. Just like Bob Dylan, but that's not it.
no, that's not right.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Let's talk to Google.
Yeah.
Okay, Google. Okay, Google. Or hey, Google. Fuck it. Alexa, who starred in Rebel Without a Cause? Is it James Dean?
James Dean. That's
Okay.
Rebel Without a Cause was directed by Nicholas Ray. It was produced by David Wisbart, and it was written by Nicholas Ray, Stuart Stern, and Irving Schulman.
Well, that didn't tell me that. All right.
close, but we figured it out.
That's all right.
Thank you, Alexa.
Yeah, so yeah, like they'll just go off into weird stuff with impressions of 'cause now I want to try to do a Steven Seagal impression where it's like, because I always talk about how he's like kind of just like whispery, like
Yeah.
everything's just kind of whispers, and then like, and they also do like, it also like revolves into a Trump impression at some point. They always do stuff like that, and that's always fun, how they do Trump impressions. And You know, because they're not for him, they just make fun of him. But like, it always revolves around Trump because like most of these action movies, is like, oh, this is just like conservative wet dreams, like all these action movies where it's like one good man with a gun solves all the world's problems.
There's only more like that.
Yeah, there was like we're gonna arm the kid, we're gonna arm the teachers, and then like they break that down. Or he's like, not all of them, you know. He's like the the gym teachers, the janitors, but just a slide like, oh, you mean all the teachers who aren't women? That's who you're gonna arm.
Guys who could or could not be closeted Nazis. They're only begrudgingly part of the teachers' unions.
And they also cover a lot of Canon films. Do you know who Canon is?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the production company.
Yeah. So they do a lot of those, which I didn't realize like all the stuff they did. I haven't watched that documentary yet because they're most famous. Well, I guess not most famous for it. They got all their money from the Breakin' movies. So you had Breakin', and then you had Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Okay.
They got a lot of money from that, and then like, but they made all those like, who's Walker Texas Ranger?
The karate guy, Chuck Norris.
Yeah, Chuck Norris. So like all those like '80s action movies, those are all like Canon films, like
Oh yeah.
Invasion USA and
Classic.
Which I guess there's like one really cool shot in Invasion USA where they just like blow up a block, and I guess they shot it in Atlanta and they were like demolishing the thing. And they just like happened upon this like, oh, we're blowing this up anyways. Like, why don't you use it in the movie? And I didn't know Death Wish was canon movies.
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah, it was anything of that. Yeah, it was movies that were almost good enough. Not like movies that you remember certain things from, but the overall product was never.
Well, they seem to be like that. They'll have some, it seemed like, okay, we're making B genre movies, but also they had some like vaguely prestigious movies and like big actors, and but there's like stuff for like I believe they did Over the Top, which was the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie.
Yes.
And he basically did it because he just gave him like a crazy number and they paid it. It's like, I'll do it for $6 million just to get them to stop talking. And they're like, here's $6 million, Mr. Sylvester Stallone.
I'm going to give it my best. Yeah, you are.
So yeah, they constantly have a thing about like they talk about the Death Wish movies and mostly like how like absurdly violent they are, but also like there's a lot of like good casts in the background. It's like, oh, the Lawrence Fishburne was the bad guy in this movie, but then like get into things like this is kind of uncomfortable because it's basically just Charles Bronson just killing minorities and.
Yeah. But he has one like black sidekick, so it makes it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm nice this guy.
Well, it's like in every movie somebody gets raped and murdered. Yeah. So, and then they do like their.
Goldblum was one of the rapists.
Yeah.
Was it first Death Wish? Second?
Yeah, it was like the first. I can't remember.
They always played that as a drop on Opie and Anthony. Like, goddamn rich cunt, and that was Jeff Goldblum.
But yeah, they always like do like a Charles Bronson impression and like go to weird places with him where it's like something's like, well, I guess it's time to die, but the only way I guess to follow the family line, I'll have to rape and kill myself. It's just like, what the fuck? So,
Death Wish 10, where he hunts down and kills himself with a Wildy pistol.
Yeah, they talked about that. Because apparently that Charles Bronson was just a fan of the pistol, and they just wrote it into the movie.
Yeah, it was like a $1,400 gun in the 80s. Basically, a gun that shot a rifle round or so. Yeah, it was
something like that. Yeah,
because if you shot someone with one of those, like what they show in the movie is like, pow, and the guy dies. It's like, oh, you blow it completely off his body.
And they always rate every movie 5 stars. So
yes.
No matter the quality, it always has 5 stars.
There's something they like about it.
And there was I forget one guy. He has like this weird thing where he like talks every time they go to the rating section. He's like, he always gets in this weird like Beavis and Butthead kind of voice where it's like, I'm gonna be Bean, I'm gonna be brutal. It's like, and like, you know, he's like, he's just gearing up to give it a bad rating. It's like, 5 stars. Like, oh my god, 5 stars. So I don't know if they keep doing that around the 150th episode, but it'll be fun to see if they do.
Fun to see where this evolves. And what's this podcast called again?
The Action Boys podcast,
Action Boys Podcast.
which they did some before they strung it out to the Patreon on the High and Mighty podcast. So if you want some free episodes of Action Boys, they are there, or somebody has probably uploaded it to YouTube for free as well. But
Yeah, just screw them that way. Find some way.
I recommend the Death Wish ones and all the Steven Seagal one, and the Arnold Schwarzenegger ones are good too because they do pretty good impressions of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And one thing they do, like what a lot of John Gabris podcasts, he kind of makes it a point that like to have no like phones or laptops there, except for recording, you know, but like. So you come in with the knowledge you have in your head, and if you make a mistake or just lie or make something up, that's just going in the show.
And that's how it used to be. Just free flow of misinformation. Which is, I mean, we actually do that here, even though we have computers and everything in front of us.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lie is the most important truth. Yeah, check it out. What are the podcasts doing now? A few of them podcasts I used to listen to have migrated over to what's the streaming service?
Oh shit.
I'm sure you've heard of this trend.
Yeah. Well, no. Was it
Stitcher-
Stitcher Premium?
Yeah, it's something like
That's one of them. There's a couple of them.
that's the only way.
And there's like Hal. I think there's Hal and Stitcher Premium.
Yeah, and because they don't do iTunes anymore, so you can't listen to these podcasts anymore because they signed some kind of deals.
Yeah.
So it's the only way is to have a streaming service, which is useless if you don't have unlimited data on your phone. It's like, okay, well, I'll never listen to them again, and that sucks because there were some fun podcasts out there. But they're actually Stitcher's actually giving them money versus trying to hawk dildos and titanium wallets or whatever. So
The Blue Chew.
yeah, the hard-on pills and the yeah.
What's Giant Bomb hawking?
Oh, you got CBD oil, Blue Chew.
No, the Blue Chew, they do Blue Chew. Occasionally there's books that come out and they'll like do book reviews, or not book reviews, but like it's like the new whatever book. They'll have stuff like that.
They'll do a read. Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes they have Squarespace is still kicking around.
Audible's a big. You know, you've kind of made it when you get to the Audible level because that's like Mark Maron stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I listened to this book through Audible, you know, and it's like, yeah, that's. But I like the guys that start out with was it Fleshlight, then it's Adam and Eve, and then you do gradations.
Yeah.
And then when you get into like Joe Rogan, Mark Maron territory, then you're doing like LegalZoom and Audible and what are the other high ends that either service like I want to support podcasts, which is why I do more Patreon now than I have before. But also like either half the products they sell, it's like, well, I don't have trouble getting an erection yet. Keep that in mind if I do. And all the other stuff they're selling, like Audible, it's like I already have that. I can't really support these people in any way.
I mean, they usually have like a T-shirt for sale or something. If you,
Yeah, well, I can't really wear. I could buy them for my son. Nobody's making 10x T-shirts on the local Funny Boys. Kind of screwed. I would like a T-shirt made in the form of like the sail from the USS Constitution. That would cover me. So anyway, we watched a movie this week on Netflix.
yes.
Talk about that in the Shadow of the Moon, which started off really interesting. Directed by Jim Mickle, who did a movie I really liked called Stakeland.
Yeah.
I kind of hoped for more. This movie started off really cool, and then it kind of like had so many ideas going on at once.
Well, I think like
And sociologically, it was.
I really like the movie, like surprisingly, because I heard like middling things about it,
Yeah.
and then like it's like, and I was like watching it like 2 in the morning. It's like, well, I guess this is gonna be the one where I like half know what's going on in the movie and like show up late, and then I just end up staying up till 4 in the morning watching the thing because I really liked it. But yeah, there's a problem with the movie in that like eventually you have to explain what's going on, and that's like the least interesting. And like trying to legitimately explain what's going on, it's like, okay, well, either this is like technology or it's magic. It's like, all right, make it magic, and like the most important thing you need to explain to the audience is the least interesting thing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I actually have the weapon she used in case anyone's interested.
Is that the air?
Yes, this is an air-powered Ingersoll Rand saw. As soon as I saw it in the movie, I was like, "That's an Ingersoll Rand air-powered saw." Just to show everyone I'm not full of shit, I actually have the injection gun, or what they made it out of. Of course, it doesn't have a cool blue light in it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
With some
I-
vague liquid writhing around.
yeah, so. But yeah, this movie, like the first 30 seconds, when everyone starts just weirdly dying, like having cerebral hemorrhages, it's like, oh, is this a plague? This
Well,
is
even before that, where it's like maybe I was interested because I had like maybe something similar, but like it just starts and there's just like it's just a broken window. You hear sirens. The camera like is tracking forward and like looks out the window, and there's just like a crater, and then a flag just flies down that has five stars on it. It's an American flag with 5 stars, and like, what the fuck is that? And like I thought we are gonna get into some like alternative reality stuff.
yeah.
Because for my sketch comedy show, I had a similar thing happen where, for jokes, a SWAT guy was chasing some guy to a door frame in the middle of of a farm. The guy goes to the door frame and disappears, and the SWAT guy goes through and like wakes up in a different universe, and like the camera pans around and like it shows the American flag, but like the blue part is just a straight, it's just the blue is just straight across, and there's like 100 stars on it. And I was never going to explain that, other than it was supposed to be the SWAT guys from a different dimension where apparently America took over like South America or whatever, and it was imperialistic and shit like that, and there's 100 states.
Super America.
So that doesn't really come to fruition here. It's just the banner for some ultra white supremacist group
Yeah.
somehow that that was somehow important to I believe a non-white bus driver.
Yeah, a Spanish lady reading a book about. Well, see, that's one of the things there's a lot of things I didn't like about this movie. There's some things I like. But yeah, because I noticed immediately, like they had this running theme of like people had always had books about presidents at the death scenes.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's weird. I wonder what that. So, but I kind of knew. I was like, oh, wait a minute. These are books about the founding fathers. This is a patriot thing. Because I thought that immediately, but then it's like, wait, the bus driver lady is like Hispanic or something, like, or maybe she wasn't supposed to be, but that's what she looked like.
Yeah.
Because these people start dying randomly, and it's like, what do they have in common? And I couldn't really think of a lot. And then when the story because the problem is there's two parallel movies going on here. There's like kind of an interesting police procedural with good actors, and then there's a weird sci-fi movie underneath it.
Yeah.
It involves time travel, but it's not well articulated, the mechanism with the consequences, or
No. Well,
they try to say it and they explain it.
they
but-
want to give you the least effective like information to explain it, because they don't want to have to like we invent time travel. It's like, no, they just want to
Yeah.
like
They have a political message here. They're trying to wrap in. I mean, this movie, there's nothing wrong with the acting in this movie. There's really nothing wrong with the direction of this movie. There's a lot wrong with the writing, and it just collapses. It empties out like a skull that's been injected with some kind of weird matter. It just collapses under its own weight.
well,
And it-
also
it-
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the other, well, I think that I don't think it doesn't. I guess it doesn't really come clear to the end, but like the sort of like twist on the time travel is that like the first time she meets him is like the furthest into her timeline there is.
Yeah.
And so that was done way better in Doctor Who with River Song,
Okay. Yes.
because that's what that. Do you know about that character?
Yes. Yes.
So like that's her whole character. The first time you meet River Song in Doctor Who, the Doctor doesn't know who she is, and she dies in that episode.
Yeah.
And then every time you meet her, the Doctor is learning more about her, and that's like, but like they're moving back in
They
opposite
meet at the
directions
end
in
of her
time.
life.
Yes.
First, at their first meeting is the end of her life, and then by the time of their last meeting, it's at the beginning of her life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly what this movie does,
Yeah.
in a weird way.
But just not as well.
Yeah, and not as like.
Well, I mean, literally that whole thing was devoted to a season of Doctor Who. This is, an hour and 55 minutes, and you have to
Right.
go through 27 years.
Yes.
Because the way the time travel works is it can happen once every 9 years.
Yeah, when the moon is in perigee with the Earth or something. That's why
Yeah.
it's called the shadow of the moon. Whatever. Good cast here. I mean, Bokeem Woodbine, his partner, is totally wasted in this movie. And
Yeah.
the actor is like, kind of like, what the fuck am I doing here? Michael C. Hall is in it, and he does a good job. And even the main guy, Boyd Halbrook, does a good job.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of an alum of other Jim Mickle movies.
Oh, he's okay. I always see him as like the B grade Charlie Hunnam, but like this guy has more starring roles under his belt, so he's probably not B grade Charlie. Because they kind of look similar, but
Yeah, he does a good job.
he also starred in the latest Predator movie. So
Okay. Like I said, the guy I recommend, I always like. I like Bokeem Woodbine as an actor because he's like offbeat, and he's kind of an eccentric actor, I think. And in
yeah,
this-
well, especially like the last time we saw his biggest role was in the second season of Fargo,
yes, yeah,
which he was great in that.
yeah. But in this movie, because I was glad to see him, I saw Michael C. Hall. Honestly, didn't know who the main guy was, but it's like, oh, okay, this has like some good actors, and
And the lady, I only know her from the Last Man on Earth.
yeah, I didn't recognize her.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, she looks somewhat plain, but you put long hair on her, and she's like the most impossibly beautiful woman in the world.
Oh, okay. Shape of her face kind of works with that.
Yeah, well, she's just got giant lips and like I don't know how to describe her
Howdy
skin
girl
tone.
look. Yeah,
But, yeah.
howdy white girl look. Yeah.
But yeah, the drama the guy has to go through is because you think like this day, like how that specific day every 9 years, what it means to that guy. It's like, oh, here's the death of his wife, but the birth of his child. Here's the death of his partner. The
End of his career.
end of his career. Here's the birth of his granddaughter, but that's probably the last death there was.
Yeah. Well, the girl. Yeah. That he essentially killed when he first met her 27 years ago. It's like, well, I know I'm gonna die now because that's where I end, but you're gonna raise me. It's like, yeah, that's some emotional there. But the overarching theory of the movie about why all this has to happen,
No, that doesn't work at all.
because weirdo white supremacists somehow in 2049 are going to cause a civil war in America, which leads to the death of 20 million people. It's like, those people are irrelevant now. How do they become more relevant in 2049? And also, what this movie doesn't debate is like, oh, what you're doing is essentially pre-crime, like in the Minority Report sense, only you're doing pre-murder. And there's no moral debate about what these people may or may not become in the future. You're just going to kill them at some point
Well,
in time.
Well, I'm kind of confused about how their time thing works. Like, is there like multi? There doesn't seem to be multiverse. It just seems to be they can just go back and change things. But like,
Linear, yeah.
but the idea is that like this isotope they inject in people, it has like a trigger on it, so people can live with that, but at some point they activate the trigger to see if that affects anything. So like all the people that die, I'm guessing in some other timeline don't have to, because they figure out the person who they need to kill that will stop this from happening, presumably, but they don't follow through with that at all, and it's just kind of kept vague.
So I just saw this as, well, this isn't pre-crime, this is pre-execution, but with no moral judgment on. It's like, well, how do we sample? What's our test form for this? It's like, what if we just kill the guy who's mailing the weird shit out? Like, maybe that'll stop the movement. Maybe some bus driver and some short order cook in Baltimore doesn't have to die. And then there's racial elements to this movie.
Yeah.
They're always like the cops are shooting black or killing black people and no one can identify, and that's the girl who gets killed in the beginning of the movie. Spoiler alert. Sorry, if you're gonna go dig on this, but yeah. So there's like all kinds of racial. There's so many messages in this. It just like I said, it empties out like a skull cavity.
Well,
under its own pressure.
Yeah, I think it fails in a lot of places, but like I don't know, there's stuff that I don't know. There's stuff there that I like. If you're like, it's like some things make the beginning more, like when you get to the end of the movie, it makes the beginning more important. But then like also you get to the end of the movie and like the whole time travel stuff doesn't necessarily like, make sense or feel satisfying. It's, oh, good, we stopped. Well, and that's kind of like the problem is like she's essentially the antagonist, but like ultimately she's the protagonist because she's gonna stop racism.
Yeah. Maybe or we don't know. Because we got a Hispanic bus driver who's part of this white movement.
Well, there's that one guy who's like had the mailing list, and there's that lady in the picture who she seemed to be also from the future, maybe, but that never gets followed up on.
Yeah, there's little hints of things. Because that's what I thought is like, oh, there's parallel future protagonists. This isn't really what the people in the past do. This is what the people from the future come and plant these seeds to in the past to destroy this future and recreate. But it never fucking happens. Oh, wow, I'm just writing my own fun story here, but nobody's working with me. Yeah, I kind of got that vibe too. It was like the last lady essentially that got killed when she jumped off the roof of the farmhouse and he shot her. It's like, that lady's got to be from the future. She's got to be some other version of this. But no, it didn't pay off. So I was like, either I'm dumb or they just didn't tell the rest of the story. I get exactly what you're saying, because the second girlfriend is like, oh, this is the other evil. This is future Nazi lady.
Yeah.
She wasn't, so whatever. Just like everything else with this movie, it's like, cool idea, bro. Whatever. What am I watching?
Yeah, like it's cool ideas. Some of it's well executed, but ultimately it's you're left wanting. Oh, I'm not sure more, but there's like you could see like why this movie got made and why it didn't succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the cast was wasted. Some of the because Michael C. Hall and Bokeem Woodbine could have done a lot more in this.
Yeah.
The main actor is a good actor. He almost had too much to do, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was like, I have to cover all these bases. I have to get old. I have to be crazy. Whoa, dude. Okay, good luck. The other two actors are kind of looking around like, who farted? Like, what are we doing here? But this wasn't low quality.
No.
It just turned into a bad movie at some point.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say bad. I just don't think it doesn't conclude well.
Yeah, it's.
I think.
Bad.
Well, it's like it's a lot of problem with like a lot of thrillers and stuff like that, where it's like you have like this cool premise. We're like, oh man, how the fuck are they gonna wrap this up? Like, I have no idea. And then they wrap it up. It's like, oh, they did. Yeah, they didn't either.
I had about as much idea as they did, and I was not involved in the production of this movie.
Because I wrote a movie vaguely, well, not like this. The only thing, it starts out there's a poker scene. The guys are playing what I created was suicide poker.
Okay.
So it's a combination of poker and what was that
Russian roulette.
Russian roulette.
Okay.
So essentially, if you play Russian roulette, that's like the top card. So like you have the best hand. So if two people play Russian roulette, then then they're equal, and then the hand plays.
Okay.
But if anyone decides, or you die, and then everybody else gets your shit. So it was like there's two. So you had the suicide poker thing, and then there's like another shot, and there's just a guy eating spaghetti at a restaurant, and it's the same guy. And at some point, like their faces come together. The guy in the suicide poker scene goes to play the Russian roulette hand.
And the other guy's eating spaghetti, the other half of his face.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And then so the guy pulls the trigger, the gun goes off, and the spaghetti guy brains go against the wall.
Right, and it kind of looks like spaghetti sauce.
yeah.
Okay, I'm throwing that in.
Yeah. And then so again, it picks up as an investigation. They go there, and there's an exit wound, but no entry wound.
Fucking weird.
And how I combined it together was like a multiverse thing, and it's like, something connected these two multiverses together, and like both these guys ended up dead. That's why this guy has no exit wound. So presumably the other guy has an entry wound but no exit wound, but he's probably still dead as well. And then I had to do a bunch of other crazy stuff to explain that, and then like it just got boring and stupid. But it was like it started good.
Yeah, it starts. It just rushes out of the gate. It's like just going. That's crazy.
I had another cool scene because at some point there's like people that can essentially just combine multiverses together to like just create things that. So I have this part where like they're in a restaurant and like it's almost like that Matrix scene where where Neo figures he's the one, and like all his agents are like shooting the bullets, and he just holds his hands up and stops all the bullets.
Yeah.
So that sort of something like that happens where the person holds up their hands and like they don't stop the bullets, they just disappear, and then you cut to a different store where the bullets are just hitting random people in a different universe.
We're channeling death to another universe.
And then that becomes an investigation in a different universe.
Bizarre police procedural ever. Let's see, we have no shell casings, and no evidence of anyone even firing guns until these people get hit, just showered with bullets. What kind of terrorism is this? What president will America get as the repercussions of this?
So yeah,
I believe we should fight the interdimensional terrorists. So we do not understand their existence or our own. But with Jesus, we will make America great, and we will stand strong against the interdimensional. Multiverse terrorists.
Those interdimensional ragheads.
Yeah.
We do not know what God they believe in. We just know it as a heathen god.
Yeah. They'd win every time. And they do nothing. They wouldn't even understand it. It's like, can NASA work on it? No, just cut taxes for the rich. Care if there's random interdimensional death. That only happens to those people. You don't have to worry about it. So, In the Shadow of the Moon, watch it. Why not?
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with it. It's just not that good. And it's not satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not satisfying.
Yeah, it'll be exciting in the beginning, and then it kind of like falls flat. But then you'll go back to like, well, I guess that was a good performance. So,
and if you get all your friends to watch it, then you can carry around ran air-powered saws on your, like on in a sheath, so you and only your friends will know what this means. You don't like future Nazis.
Man, that scientist guy was completely useless in this whole fucking movie.
The Indian guy?
Yeah. I mean, he was there just to like explain the plot or the mechanism of the plot. And
yeah. Yeah, he didn't do a lot except
Well, at one point, like one of the, I think it was like in the 18 year where he just like you see a newspaper clipping of him missing,
Yeah.
but then he just shows up again. So it's like, wait, why did that matter?
What's his expertise? Because in the first,
Well, he's a physicist.
yeah, he's a physicist. He shows up at the police station to talk to the cop, and then he's making the interdimensional or intertemporal assassination tool. 'Cause
Yeah.
he does it with the pigs, and then he's like in the end scene where he's in a wheelchair after the car wreck, he's like directing the Time Travel Institute.
Yeah.
It's like this guy's wearing a lot of hats. Guy has a lot of expertise. He's making Ingersoll Rand air-powered saws into assassination tools. He's activating them from the future, kill people in the past to see if that.
Well,
remember that? What was that episode of Voyager? Was it the Bad Year, where the people can change time and they have computer programs and simulations to judge the effects of changes they make? Because it was one where Chakotay gets taken in as like their what was he called? Like a student of theirs or something. It's like you gotta understand what we're doing.
Was that like part of the Q thing or something like that? Or
No, this is a different group in
Okay.
the Delta Squadron. Forget it. It's Star Trek.
I'm vaguely remember, but also you know that's 150 episodes of Voyager, and I gotta remember.
You don't remember this one?
I'm not Mike from Red Letter Media who can remember like every Star Trek episode and the name of it.
Yeah, the red-shirted guy brings in the cup of coffee. I'm not an alcoholic. Yeah.
Also, like I was wondering, like, remember when he injects her with the thing, like before she gets hit by the subway?
Shoots her in the leg, yeah, with it.
Did that do anything? Because I thought when they showed like a picture of like her body and the pieces that like it looked like the brain matter was coming out of her nose. Like, did they activate it to kill her before the train hit her or something?
Yeah,
or would they know that?
I don't know because I thought it had to be put in like your vertebrae.
yeah, that's what I thought too. So
I was just shooting her in the leg with it, like, and the guy would have to activate it anyway, and he wouldn't because he'd know that was his agent.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know.
So I didn't necessarily know like why it was important for him to inject her right before she got hit by a train.
Well, I think he was just like showing. I don't know. I think they were trying to make a point with it, but again, it was something that wasn't like a lot of things in this movie. It just wasn't followed up on. It's like, no, you have to do it in the back of the head, because otherwise it'll just. I don't even know how the shit works. Like it attacks brain matter. It does.
Yeah. They just say isotope, and he was like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's some Russian shit."
Russians. Yeah, and it happens in the 80s, and they're talking about it in the 90s, like, oh, they've never been able to reproduce this. So they just kind of wrote it off. It's like, well, that would never happen.
Oh, did that key ever go to anything?
No.
Jesus Christ.
It was just kind of like, there was like, well, okay, where's the NSA or somebody? Like, hey, wait a minute. What is this shit? We got to know what this is. Because in the 80s, they would think it was like some Soviet assassination tool. And they would move heaven and earth to reproduce that. They wouldn't let it sit in the Baltimore or the Philadelphia like police unsolved file. Like they'd know exactly what that shit was.
It's also kind of weird in like the 80s part where, because it's like Michael C. Hall as a detective, but they're just like beat cops, but they're like moving around like they're on the case. So, like I'm not necessarily sure why. It's like, well, they're the main characters, so we're just gonna have them do it. You know, I don't.
Well, he was also Michael C. Hall's
brother. Yeah.
So he was sort of given like, because he was supposed to be a really good cop. Like he followed up on things.
Yeah.
Him and Bokeem Woodbine just seemed like beat cops, but it's like, no, we're gonna follow up on this because I have a certain amount of gravitas because of who my brother is. Also, I'm a good cop. So that was the thing they were trying to show. Is this guy was a really good cop at one time before he became homeless conspiracy dude who turned out to be right. But yeah, that was again nothing wrong with this. This is just kind of what do you call these movies? There's a name. Some reviewer. It's the Netflix garage sale movies. It's like this isn't going to be perfect. There might be things in it you like.
Yeah, I don't think this is a movie that like like they saved from a studio. I think they produced this, as far as I know. I didn't see anything that said otherwise, but
I know Jim. Some of the background I read on it was Jim Mickle had shopped this script to like 2 studios, and I think whoever produced this like snapped it up. Like, yeah, this could be good. This wasn't made for a ton of money.
oh, it was because it looked really good.
No, I think what did
Because they have to go across like 3 different decades. So I thought they did well for what they had.
Yeah, this was filmed in what's box office? It's $25 million.
Jesus, all right.
Yeah, they did a good job with the money they had.
I mean, Stakeland was produced for very low, and they did a really good job with that too.
$100,000.
Well, they also had like the entire town like helping make the movie.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna get this train to act as like a blockade. It's like, do I have to pay for that? It's like, dude, we're helping you make a movie.
Yeah, well, we've never been in a movie before. So we're cool. We're just overwhelmed with. Well, I mean, the thing with Stakeland that worked, and again, not a perfect movie, but very good was it was like you knew like all the cars were from the 70s, and you knew this didn't have a lot of production value. It had some.
Yeah.
It was really the story and the characters. And where this movie, like, there are strong characters in this movie, but they seem almost misused, or their actions seem random.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't like that when it's like, oh yeah, he just suddenly jumped to that right because anyone would. No, that sort of pisses me off. But so yeah, I mean, I don't hate God because I watched this movie. It was fine. It's fine. If you have Netflix, check it out. It's fine. Or not.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything. Well, I probably could have everything. We could talk about wrestling, but I don't.
We could.
I just, yeah, mostly just talk about. Did you watch the clip I said the Passion of the Cody? Did you watch that?
Yeah,
one?
we watched that on the before the podcast once. And
Oh,
we didn't talk about it.
Oh,
Did you put this one up?
no, this is recently the one where he just gets whipped 10 times.
Yeah.
Oh, you watched it?
Me and Andrew watched it on here or something.
I was showing it to him, but I wasn't sure if you watched it at all. Or
Yeah, I
not.
watched it the same time you showed it to
Oh,
him.
okay.
It would be kind of weird for me to watch.
But I thought that was just fascinating because like that was the main event of that show. It's just this dude getting hit by a belt 10 times, and like every hit of the belt it like had like a new story to it. I just thought it was amazing. It was like this is the most simple and probably dumb shit, but like wow, it's weirdly captivating.
Well, someone's actually getting hit with a whip.
Yeah, you can't hide that.
Telling, and you can kind of like whatever story they're telling, it suddenly has weight.
Yes.
Some dude's getting hit with a whip. Well, that's what I got out of it.
Well, it's like that was like one of the stipulations. So like MJF had betrayed Cody at one of the pay-per-views, and because of that, Cody can never fight for the championship ever.
Okay.
We'll see how long that lasts, but if they do it forever, then that'll be good. It's like, hey, long-term storytelling.
Yeah.
And so now the whole thing ever since that is that Cody's trying to get in a fight with MJF, but MJF's a coward, so he doesn't want to do it. So yeah, at the show I was at, like one of the things Cody came out, he says, "What's it gonna take to fight?" And that's where he like actually had like a case with like $10,000 in it, and he and he was like giving up his truck, which was like a F-150.
Raptor.
It was a Raptor, but it was like a special edition, like Call of Duty Raptor.
Okay. No, they had those. But,
Yeah, it was like 100 of them made, or something like that. It was like some Ford truck that there's only like 100 of them out there. And then some a show later on there was a response, and like he says like I don't need all that. It's like, and this is what he needs, and like the 10 lashings was one of them. The others that he has to do a cage match with Wardlow. That's his big muscle guy that's with MJF there. And I'm not sure if that's next week. It might be. I think they're doing that in Atlanta because They're going to do a big show because they're trying to sell out a basketball arena for that show.
How many people is that?
I think around 10,000.
Hmm.
Which they've gotten 10,000 people to go to their shows before, but like I'm not sure if they're for a normal television show. Because they sold out a hockey stadium for their very first show, but like that was to be expected because it was their very first show. But like, there's something about the data with them where Atlanta is like the numbers are abnormally huge for the people that watch AEW specifically from Atlanta.
Okay.
So they just ran the data. It's like, well, we think we can sell out this arena, so we're gonna do it. Because it's like you go to any other market, it's like, oh, there's like 200,000 people from New York watched AEW, and then like you go to Atlanta, and it's like, oh, like 600,000 people from Atlanta watched this show, and it's like that's half the population of Atlanta, or at least the city proper, not necessarily the outlying areas.
Yeah. A lot of suburbs in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, and then AEW got a new TV deal, so they're signed up for 4 years on TNT, so that was good for them.
Okay.
Because it seemed like, this is a weird thing about ratings, but it seemed like they weren't, so like their very first show they got like 1.4 million, and like they haven't had a million show since, but they've had like a bunch of like 900,000s like here and there. And at some point NXT was beating them in the ratings, but since the new year they haven't beat them at all. But like the demographics, which I guess that's the important thing. That's how like the TV show is ranked in the ratings. So they're usually like in the top 10 for ratings. The only thing that beats them out is like news television shows, but that's just because they have a lot bigger audience. It's like 900,000 versus 10 million people or whatever. And then but then also they've been outperforming some NBA games like on ESPN at the same time.
Huh.
So whatever they paid AEW for the next 4 years, like that's probably nothing compared to what they pay for what TNT pays for NBA games. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a much larger draw usually, and more advertising dollars.
But also, like, yeah, ratings are like a weird thing now. Maybe ratings were always overblown, or maybe they're just more specific now. Because you see, like the Super Bowl, it did like 20 million people or whatever. It's like, oh, that's and then like this show does 900,000. It's like, oh, that's got to be canceled. But then, like, there's some because like South Park is like when it's on Wednesdays as well, and so I could see South Park ratings, and like South Park was only like getting like 700,000 people watching their show. It's like, oh, that seems bad, but like they had a high demographic, like a young demographic, so they did well in the demographic, so it's fine.
Well, the weird thing about like ratings, it's like because who doesn't report though? Like I think HBO, some of those other places, like for network and like basic cable, ratings are important, even though they do have like on-demand streaming stuff. But yeah, some of those ratings are really skewed by the number of people that will watch them like on their own time or off Prime or whenever they can, or they DVR them.
Well, that's the thing. The DVRs don't count towards the ratings.
Yeah. So it's dumb.
Because because I don't really have the numbers, but I heard like the guy talking about, Dave Meltzer was talking about, he's seen some of the numbers, and like if you included the DVR numbers into the ratings, they'd be getting like almost 2 million people watching that show.
Right.
So like they have huge DVR numbers, but because you aren't guaranteed, because some of that DVR stuff, like you can cut out the commercials, so then that's not guaranteed like that somebody watched the commercial. So that's why ratings are all about like, did somebody watch this commercial?
Yeah.
Because that's how because that's the whole demographic thing is about. It's like how much can you charge advertisers?
Yes.
So that's like, so it's not necessarily like how many millions of people are you getting watching the show. It's like, are those millions of people young people that will buy shit?
Yeah, it's not how many. It's like, do 20 million people like this show? Yes. Will 20 million people buy Tide detergent? Zero. So.
What was the other rate? But yeah, they got signed up for. So they've made money off of this because they signed a 4-year contract. It's like like $100 million a year or something like that. which would, or maybe maybe it's like 50 million a year. Yeah, something like that. It's nothing like what WWE got. They got like $1 billion over 5 years.
Yeah, I was amazed at like 100 million really for that level of production, but okay.
Like I said, like they're probably not that's probably like a deal considering what they're paying the NBA for NBA games.
Yeah. Seemed kind of low.
What was the other rating shit? Oh yeah, WWE stock price plummeted.
Oh, did it?
So the people that came up with these deals where they sold the $1 billion deals to Fox and USA, Vince McMahon fired both of them.
Okay. Makes sense.
Citing, they were fired, but it gets retold as like they were let go for irreconcilable differences.
Yeah, like what you didn't want to pay them, those differences.
That's the other crazy thing. So the XFL came back.
Yeah. Yes.
And
talking about this the other day.
So and it did pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, like it got like each broadcast got around 3 million views, which is more than who watches wrestling, because each wrestling show gets about 2.4 million people watching it. So that's weird. So
I think there's some funny math going on somewhere with one of the production companies.
No, it's football. People, because like even when I went to the break room, it was like, oh, football was on, and people were just watching the XFL because it was football and it was on.
Oh, okay.
And it was a Saturday, so and Sunday. It played on Fox, ESPN, and Fox and ESPN ran them. So
okay.
And this is supposed to be completely separate from WWE because this is all Vince's money put into this.
Oh, okay.
But that's like the weird thing about ratings. Like each of these shows got 3 million views. It was considered a success. We'll see what it does this weekend. Like if it drops significantly, well then it's a bust. But if it stays, then it'll be because guess how many people watched the original XFL opening weekend for just the highest grade.
When was this? What year?
This would be 2003, 2000, 12 million.
12 million. Okay, I was a little off.
And then it dropped significantly in the next week, and then they just canned it. But nowadays, if they had that many viewers, they'd be
that's like Happy Days. Holy shit! 12 million people paid attention for 30 seconds or longer.
So yeah, the XFL is back. We'll see if it's a success or not. But yeah,
is Trump funding it?
No, he's not involved.
Oh, that's too bad.
But he's Vince McMahon put his own money into it, and so it's supposed to be afloat. No matter what, it's going to last at least 2.5 years. So.
Oh, okay.
With that's how much money he put into it. Because there was that AAF that came out, and then from the guy who made the documentary about the XFL, it's they had some pretty good ideas, and he put out
that weird journey that he took.
Yeah, but then the money guy didn't have money, so then the collapsed after 3 months or something.
That's the case. We're behind you in every way, but financial.
So yeah, guess we'll see.
See what happens.
And they had some interesting production stuff for the XFL for what I saw. They had a lot of they had drone cameras and stuff like that. And had the wire cam, which they invented for football, and the NFL stole after the XFL collapsed.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cool production stuff that the XFL did. That as soon as it collapsed, the NFL's steal all that.
This actually worked.
And then they had some, Yeah, I think they had stuff for like when they go into halftime and like the coach does a speech, like they had the camera in there and stuff like that, and
Oh, okay.
they did some interesting production stuff that was like okay, this is new and slightly different, but I have not sat down and watched a whole XFL game, so I don't know their whole production tune. And then they seem to be just handing out tickets, so I don't know how many tickets they sold, but there's plenty of people there that are getting free tickets. So, but all right. And the Royal Rumble happened. It was I remember it being cool.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I've noticed is that Edge returned, who I don't think you know who Edge is.
Surprisingly, I don't.
He had to quit wrestling like 10 years ago, or else he probably would have died because he had a severe.
Guy with the cerebral problem.
No, well, no, I believe he had spinal stenosis.
Oh, okay. I know there was somebody who's like, they said if your head takes another whack, you're just gonna have like an aneurysm. But I'm thinking of something else.
Oh no, that was Shibata,
Oh, okay.
the guy who took a headbutt and then like had a brain aneurysm afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. That was
Japanese guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Although there's probably tons of wrestlers who like if they
Yeah,
take
I'm sure a lot of people are just riding that razor blade, whether they know it or not. Yeah.
But yeah, so he came back. He got cleared. He got into great shape. It's like he's talking about. It's like I got some wrinkles and I'm grayer, but he's like his body looks like a 20-year-old.
That's cool.
And then what was the other big stuff? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I had fun watching the show. That's the Royal Rumble's fun because it does stuff like that where it's usually about surprise entrances. So
Yeah, it kind of sets. That's like the tone setter, right?
yeah,
Like it's the story arcs that will continue.
yeah, because it's like they call this WrestleMania season. It starts with the Royal Rumble, so and then. And then we'll have the Super Showdown, which that's the Saudi Arabia show, will happen at the end of this month.
That's the one that was kind of controversial.
Oh, not kind of. It is. But at least last time they had two ladies wrestle, so that was
Was there anyone in
progress.
the crowd? Or did they just film it and they cleared the stands?
Oh no, there's people in the crowd.
Okay, good. Because I thought.
Well, there's women there watching the show. It's just there can't be women participating in the show.
Yeah.
Well, they had to have head to toe coverage. I mean, you could see their faces, but then they had to have like baggy T-shirts on top of their gear, so that you couldn't see the form of a lady. And I guess
Secure culture over there.
well, they get so much money. They get because
Yeah.
because they basically they got $1 billion from two different companies for 5 years of television production, and then they got like $200 million for 10 shows from Saudi Arabia, which that's crazy, but whatever. Usually those shows are like skippable, like nothing happens of importance, and they're just treated like big house shows where it's like, oh, we had some fun, but none of this matters. But recently they've had some stuff there that mattered, so. They're going to have another ladies match as far as I know. And then a bunch of other people are coming back. Goldberg and The Undertaker or whatever. Hulk Hogan.
Goldberg now.
Oh, he's in his 50s.
Yeah, I was going to say, this guy's got to be up there.
He's only got to do 2 moves.
Yeah.
Because last time he embarrassed himself because he knocked himself unconscious in the middle of the match.
Oops.
Well, I guess not unconscious. He clearly got a concussion and barely did the match.
Yeah. Just got to power through.
That's always crazy to think when people talk about like, oh yeah, I don't remember any of that part of my life. Like that's what a concussion does. It just there's no more transference to long-term memory. You just did all these things, and then you watch a video of it and it's like, I don't remember that. That just seems so frightening.
It's like who's the baseball player? Was it Darryl Strawberry that they dropped? He dropped a bunch of acid because he thought he played the next day, but he was playing that night. And I don't know if it was Daryl Strawberry or something.
Oh, is that the picture? Yeah, no, it wasn't Daryl Strawberry, but I know it. There's like an animated YouTube video of like the whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah.
And he says the only way I remember that game is to watch replays of it because I wasn't really there. He wasn't. It's like that's fucking crazy. You just threw a Major League Baseball game on acid because you miscalculated the dates. Whoa.
I was,
So I
Yeah.
could start dropping acid too because if you can throw a ball game on acid, you can drive a forklift on acid, right?
Well, I remember there's the other one with Becky Lynch. She got punched in the face, and like it was an accident, but she just really got punched in the face, and like her part of her face and her nose got broken. And she was just covered in blood. But then she like plays it off like a badass, and she's like runs off in the crowd, and, like puts her hand like, "Come on, what's up?" And then like the crowd's like loving it, like she's clearly intending to do something to play off like, "Oh, my nose just got broke, and there's blood all over me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna like look like a badass." And then like she says like, "I don't remember any of that." And it's like it's just like you intentionally made choices in this situation, and you have no memory of it.
Septum's crushed. Got a cheekbone that's out of alignment. We're gonna play this up. Yeah, that's frightening.
But that's wrestling. That's what happens when you get dropped in your head.
My son he got one concussion we know of, and I was asking him, and Mom and Dad were there at that game, and I was asking him, I was like, "What happened?" He goes, "I got up off the ground real quick because I didn't want him to like, have to call like a timeout and come out to the field and stuff because I didn't want to look like a pussy." I was like, "Do you know what was wrong?" He goes, "I don't remember a lot of the game. Like I know I came because he didn't play a lot." But he's like, I know I came back, and it's like you don't sit on the bench because that's like a no-no. It's like unless you're injured, don't sit on the bench. Okay, we're gonna. And he's like, I remember standing there, but he's like, and then I know you talked to me in the car on the way home. It's like, are you all right? Because I like put a flashlight in his eyes, and it's like, yeah, dude, I don't think your pupils are responding. And we got him into the doctor the next day. It's like, yep, he's got a concussion. He doesn't remember being hit. He remembers getting up as quick as he can. Because he's like, I didn't want anyone to know anything was wrong. And that's just my son playing football in high school. And then when he broke his arm, he's like, I just ran off the field because I didn't want people to think I was a pussy. Like, his arm was broken 2 places. Like, I don't think anyone thought you were a pussy. Okay, all right.
The only time I've had like, and I never went to a doctor for it, but I can just imagine it was a loss of memory.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume it was a concussion. I was just playing basketball at lunchtime. We were just having a pickup game or whatever, and it was in the gym. But like, so they have like, you have like the main basketball area, but then they have like these side areas where you have like 6 basketball hoops come down, and you're just using like you're like using like the you're cutting like the basketball court into like 3 horizontal areas to like have
It
basketball.
was like in a high school gym.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But then, like, also, like, at the same time, they had a volleyball net set up.
Okay.
And the ball was, like, going out of bounds, and I decided to just fucking dive for the ball to save it and, like, throw it back to, like, my teammate. Not realize I was diving into the volleyball net, woke up on the other side of the volleyball net and turned around 180.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, how did that happen? And then I just got up and went along with the day. It's like, well, that was probably a concussion.
Did things seem outlined in kind of a little bit of white for like the first minute or so?
No, I don't remember. Like, I just remember my face going into the volleyball net and then nothing after that.
No, I mean when you got up and you woke up, did things seem kind of silhouetted?
Not really. Like, things might have been like kind of like shadowy trails on things for like a second.
You bounce your brain off your skull. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I did that shit on my my bicycle. The only thing I did was I rode my bike around a lot when I was younger, and I always did stupid shit on it. Like, oh, the kids on the BMX bike are doing this, so my 300-pound go up the trail and try to do this. And yeah, and I remember like everything would white out. Like I'd fall off the bike. I didn't have a helmet or anything on. I'd fall off the bike and everything would white out, and then things kind of had like a brightness a bright quality to them, even things that shouldn't be, and shadows were very dark, and things seemed to kind of move a little bit, whether my head was moving or not. I found out later in life, it's like, yeah, that's traumatic brain. No, it didn't affect me any. I turned out fine. But yeah, because that's what Grayson said. Like the lights were really bright. It's like, I can't believe how bright the lights were in the stadium. It's like, yeah, it's because you bashed your brain off your skull. It's not
and,
really
and your pupils aren't dilating, and they're just
Yeah.
letting all the light in.
letting in. Give you sunglasses when they do that at the eye doctor. There's a reason.
All right. Well, that's wrestling and concussion talks.
Yeah.
There's a,
Yeah,
there's a,
this is our very limited experience between like my son, you, and me of concussions. Imagine people that like take shots to the head at MMA all the time. It's like, we're sort of fucked up. Those people are really fucked up.
well, I've heard stuff like where it's like it's actually like football players are like in worse shape because like they get like micro concussions or something like that.
They get concussed all the time.
And it's like it's the repeatability of it that can like really have an effect on your brain, whereas like with boxers, where even though like okay, someone took too many shots to the head, but like with a boxer, is like, okay, here's one time a year I might get knocked out in this fight, but that's just one time, and like you can recover from it.
Right.
Presumably. I mean, we all see like boxers in their later years, and most of them they aren't something's wrong with them.
Does it cover for him? It's like it's early onset Parkinson's. It's like, no, that's being bashed in the head by hands of stone. But football players, it's like how many games a year? You just constantly bash. Yeah, because the world heavyweight boxing champion doesn't fight like 20 times.
No.
That's not how it works. And high level MMA people, I think they get it the worst. They don't fight, 20 times a year. The guys ranking up do, but how many times are you getting hit in the head by what's that angry Irish dude's name?
Oh, Conor McGregor.
Yeah, Conor McGregor. Like, how many times is he throwing basically a cinder block at your skull? How long was the last fight with Conor McGregor?
It was like 30 seconds. Yeah.
Great pay-per-view. Thanks.
Was that a pay-per-view or is that like a free show?
I don't know. Might have been.
Because I know he's like, he's been in a lot of trouble recently. Because like, I'm just gonna punch old people in bars and shit. So I thought that wasn't really a money fight. That was just kind of like
pay your league bills fight.
Yeah. I mean, that dude doesn't have to work. Well, as far as I know, the dude doesn't work again because like he made like $1 billion off that fight he did with was it Mayweather? Yeah, because I bought that. That was $100 pay-per-view.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, and 10 million people bought that fucking thing.
The thing with guys like that and getting punching old people in bars and stuff. Like if I happen to be in a bar, which would not really happen much today, and Conor McGregor and his entourage were in there, I might be like, oh, hey, and wave and move on. I wouldn't be like, I think you're a fucking pussy. I do that with those guys. I just could have beat the shit out of you. Because people
they remember being poor and they don't give a shit.
Yeah. And they have lots of money and they're like, this guy's not going to get one up on, especially an Irish dude. Like, those people are just the actual Irish. They're either really pleasant or they're full of rage. There's no middle ground. He's a moderately unpleasant Irishman. No, this guy, like his dad probably got blown up in a bombing or something. Like I don't know what the story is. But people did that with Mike Tyson a lot. Like they wanted to make challenging statements to him. And it's like, don't do that. With number one, those people can kill you. Just know into it. No matter what you've done or how many, sparring matches you did with your brother, that guy's gonna kill you. So don't say shitty things. Just be like, oh, hey. And even if he's like, fuck you, I'll be like, all right, cool. Conor McGregor just told me to go fuck myself. That's a cool story to tell. Not he bounced my head off the because I thought I was gonna fight a world class MMA fighter in the.
Well, I mean, maybe for that guy, that's a payday. So it was like, yeah, I fought Conor McGregor and got $10 million out of
Well,
it.
yeah,
It's like, was it on pay per view? No, it was at the bar.
Yeah, you will get paid for that, I guess, if that's what you want.
Oh, shit, I just had something else in mind. Oh. Something about fighting and pay per views, but oh well.
Yeah.
Somebody getting paid obscene amounts of money for. Fuck, what was it? Oh well.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
All right. Well, I guess we should probably end the show.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon. Goodbye, America.